Are you struggling to pay off your bounce back loan? Bounce back loans have started to be repaid, and depending on when you took out your loan, some of them are now being repaid. And while I'm sure most people can repay them fine, I wanted to do this video about what to do if you are struggling to repay your bounce back loan. I do regular videos on tax and accounting issues, so if you would like to subscribe to the channel, you'd be very welcome. Please, I'm always interested in your comments. If you could put some comments, that'd be interesting. And if you press the like button, it helps me in the channel. Now that bounce back loans have to be repaid, what can you do if you are struggling to make the payments? Well, the first thing is that actually within the structure of the loans, there is the ability to make the repayments more slowly. So a standard loan is for 6 years. So you can extend that. So it's a 1 year without repayments and then 5 years with repayments, which makes 6 years. You can extend that to 10 years, which obviously reduces the monthly repayments. So you can do that, and that is within the structure of the loan, so that should be readily agreed by your bank. The other thing that you're allowed to do is you're allowed to have interest only periods, so you don't pay the capital back, you just pay the interest. And since the interest is only 2.5%, it means that your repayments are very low. So you can have these 6-month holidays where you don't make repayments. So the first thing to do is just consider whether you can do that. The next thing I think to think about is if you really can't repay the loan, what to do. And I think there is a lot of person down the pub talk about, just walking away from the company, and it's just not as simple as that. As a director, you do have responsibilities, and I think it's important to understand those responsibilities. I have done 2 separate videos, partly on how you could be personally liable for a bounce back loan. Basically, you can be personally liable if you act recklessly, but also if you take the money out of the company and create an overdrawn director's loan account. But I've done a whole video on that, if you'd like to have a look at that. And the other way is if you have an overdrawn director's loan account, so if that's you take more money out of the company than you can pay in dividends, then it does create a 32.5% tax in the company. So those are 2 things that you need to be aware of, and I'd have done separate videos on both of those things. But if you really can't pay back the bounce back loan, then you do have to think about the viability of the business. And when you think about the viability, you do have responsibility. So as a director, once you you know that you can't pay back the debts of the company, your responsibilities become very much weighted towards the creditors of the company as opposed to the shareholders. And you need to think about how you can act responsibly for those creditors. And I think if you can't pay your bounce back loan and you've done a cash flow and you can't see a way forward that you could make the payments in the future, then I think at that stage, or perhaps a little bit before, you really need to speak to your professional advisors. And I think the first advisor is really you need to speak to your accountant if you've got one, and see whether they consider that the company is viable, and whether they consider that you're acting it within your duties and responsibilities as a director. And if things are a bit worse than that, then you need to maybe speak to an insolvency practitioner, because the whole insolvency thing is a special area of accountancy and to some extent law, and if you to make sure that you don't fall foul of anything, and to protect yourself as a director and to show that you've done the right thing, I think it's really important to take that advice and document it, so that if anybody questions it in the future, then you can show that you have acted properly. Because what I don't want is, first of all, to minimise the possibility of you becoming personally liable for the debts of the company, and also you don't want to get into an action to disqualify yourself as a director. So we don't want any of that. And the way to do it is, if you're worried, get advice. So in summary, this video I think is really important because I think there's a lot of talk down the pub of people taking out bounce back loans, taking out the money and spending the money personally and moving on. And I think it's fairly obvious that that's not compliant. And I suspect that there are people that are getting away with that, so they can say, oh yeah, I did this and I got away with it. Well, firstly, you don't know they're telling the truth, and secondly, they might have got away with it because they were lucky, not because they were doing things correctly. So my advice, therefore, is try and repay your bounce back loans. If you can't repay them, speak to your bank and extend the terms. If you can't extend the terms, then seek further advice. And then take it from that advice. Thank you for watching. As I say, I do regular videos on tax and accounting, so if you'd like to subscribe, you'll be very welcome. I'll be interested in your comments, and pressing the like button helps me and the channel. Thank you.